Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to a very disorganized fantasy corner. I need to get my shit together up here. There are books everywhere. I have not shelved the stuff from my most recent grand thrifting extravaganza, so it is straight chaos, and I also have a whole bunch of books to post on Pango as well. And I'm going to apologize now for all of the clickety clacking that you're going to hear in this video. I am ready to go out. I have about an hour to kill before I leave to go to see one of the authors that's actually in this, that I'm going to mention in this video. So in case you somehow did not look at the thumbnail or read the title of this video, welcome to my April notable reads. Welcome back to the channel, or hello if you're new. Every month I just quickly go over the 6 most notable reads that I had from the month before, and I do talk a little bit about some quick stats and some of my, I may have some honorable mentions sometimes. I had a lot in March. I don't think I have that many this time around. And now I'm using Storygraph, and I really love all of the metrics that Storygraph gives me. And this is not an ad for Storygraph, though if Storygraph for some reason wants to ever work with me, I'm happy to work with them. My nerdy ass would love to work with them. But anywho, we're going to talk about the things I read in April. I technically read 18 books, which totaled 7,320 pages. And that brings my current book count up to date as of recording this. I have read 74 books, which is fantastic because that has me 2 books ahead for my reading goal of 200 books for the year. Last year I read a lot more books and I was like crushing that goal, and I even thought about, I think I read almost 300 books last year. That is not gonna happen this year. I got more shit on my plate this year. Lovely metrics that they give me over here on Storygraph. No surprise to anybody. The majority of the books that I read, the top 4 like moods of the books that I read, were reflective, emotional, challenging, and adventurous. I don't know what half of that means, but most of the time my metrics look like half my books are dark and sad and depressing and moody, and then like maybe like 1% is actually sad. Sorry, happy. I can't even say the word happy because I'm so not used to having happy things, or like happy, uplifting. What do they use? Funny. Yeah. I don't have books like that. I don't read books like that. You don't come to this channel for like happy and uplifting books. Those are one-offs on this channel. As always, I read about medium-paced books, whatever that means to people, and most of my books are in the sweet spot of 300 to 500 pages. So I just love all these stats, so I hope you guys like these stats. My top like 5 genres are classics, science fiction, literary, historical, and fantasy, with feminism coming in like a quick, like on the heels of fantasies. We had a good month this month. The only thing I don't like about Storygraph is it doesn't include my DNFs in the like books that I read. So if I say I didn't finish it, it's not like in there. Yeah, so April is the month that I did DNF the wonderful Books of Jacob by Olga Tokarczuk. That is not a noble read other than the fact that I hated it that much. If you didn't watch the reading vlog where I DNF'd it, then you don't know this, but I really disliked it. I got about halfway through and just couldn't stomach it any further. But that's enough about that. Let's talk about 6 books that I absolutely loved this month. And we're gonna go in the order I wrote them down, not in the order that they're piled up here, but we have Girlhood by Melissa Fabos, and that's, I think I've talked about this quite a bit already. This was a feminist book club box pick from March, and I finally read it in April. I was a little behind. And this is a phenomenal collection of essays and sort of like memoir that discusses, how does she say it here? She charts how she and others like her have reimagined relationships and made room for the anger, grief, power, and pleasure women have long been taught to deny. Written with Fabos' characteristic precision, lyricism, and insight, Girlhood is a philosophical treatise? I feel like I have such a hard time saying that word. And an anthem for women, and a searing study of the transitions into and away from girlhood towards a chosen self. So I love this book so much, and what I'm mad about is that I didn't read this like sitting down and annotating it, because there's not like one flag in here, and in reality in my brain there are like dozens of flags that should be flagged in this book. So this is going to be a reread at some point with a pen, with my flags, with my note taking, because the things that she talks about in here are, and the way she talks about them, it's just, it is she hit so many feelings. I've talked about this a lot, but in particular, I think the things that really stand out to me on reflection are discussing the emotional burden on women having when they're in relationships with cis-het men, and how you have to be so many different women to that one man, and how exhausting that is to be mother, lover, like friend, therapist, this, that, and the other thing. And it's absolutely just exhausting, and I feel that all the time, and it's just, oh. And there's lots of other stuff that discusses just consent. There's I don't think I've ever thought of it in terms of this, but negotiated consent. You know, all the times that you as women, we as women say, like, start to negotiate with the men in our lives or with things in our lives to make them, instead of saying no and just being like, we're not, you can't touch me, you can't do this, I'm not comfortable with this, da da da. Instead of saying that, we sort of negotiate a scenario where we're less uncomfortable. Still uncomfortable, just less uncomfortable. And when you articulate it like that, I'm like, fuck, why do we do that? Like, why? So I highly encourage everyone to read this. It's amazing. I'm going to try to speed through this video a little bit because I have a bowl of popcorn I really want to eat. That's the reason. I went for a run and I'm hungry and I want my damn popcorn. So we're going to take a little popcorn break. It's delicious. Popped it myself. Anybody else eat popcorn like they're a fucking animal, just like shoveling food in their face? Just me? Next, we have, to swallow, we have The Glass Hotel by Emily St. John Mandel. I feel like you can't see this really well in the bright ass lights that I have to film in this dark ass corner. But this is by Emily St. John Mandel, if I didn't say that. And I'm actually going to see her tonight, which is why I'm all dressed up. She is talking at a library that's not too far away from me. It's definitely not my local library. I'm gonna go see her and I'm super excited. And this is a really interesting story that sort of touches on a Bertie Madoff like scenario, and you get a lot of discussion about greed and love and sibling rivalry, and there's even some discussion of sort of art and like drug culture. Was a phenomenal story. I just love, if you watch the vlog where I talked about this, again, I feel like if you watch my vlogs, you can choose my notable reads, but this was just, I listened to this on the drive down to see Naomi, and the way that Emily St. John Mandel weaves narratives and and separate stories and different timelines to just create this like wonderful, cohesive, meandering story, if that makes any sense. Like, it all ends up meandering together and making complete and utter sense, but you have all these different little like almost fingers of a story, and they kind of like come together, and it was amazing. I absolutely loved this, and I can't wait to read Sea of Tranquility. I'm waiting for Naomi, otherwise I would have read it already. I'm waiting for Naomi to read The Glass Hotel, because according to Naomi, which she's heard and I don't know anything about, is that there is a character or a plot line or something from The Glass Hotel that carries over into the Sea of Tranquility. And I try not to know a lot about the books that I'm reading because I just want to like experience them like a newborn baby. I can think of a few different ways that you could further some of the narratives in here into another story. So I'm really curious. I'm really curious about this. I loved Vincent. I think that she was an amazing character, and I really felt for her at times, and I understood why she made some of the decisions she made. It's such a good book, and I'm so excited to see her talk tonight. I have almost all of these books this time, which is nice. Next up is Black Cake by Charmaine Wilkerson. One of the few Book of the Month books that I've actually read so far this year. Last year, I feel like by this point I had read dozens of them, and I have to catch up on all my Book of the Month picks. So Black Cake by Charmaine Wilkerson is kind of like, it's kind of like a little thriller almost. You have a bit of a mystery. Essentially, you have Byron and Benny, who were once very close, brother and sister. Their mom dies. Yeah, their mom dies. So I read this at the very beginning of the month, so I need to like make sure I remember all the things. But essentially, their mom dies, and she writes them. Yes, this is right. So the siblings are estranged, and when the mom dies, she basically leaves this message for the kids, And it's definitely like a vehicle to get the children back together, but it's also a vehicle to tell the mother's story. And this family has this woman, the family, because the father as well, there are so many secrets that just, and the way they get like slowly revealed throughout the story, it is just absolutely phenomenal. And I loved this book so much. The things it says about like female friendship. I love stories that deal with like the secrets we keep from our children and why. Just good old sibling relationship. It was so stinking good and so beautifully done, and the audiobook's phenomenal too. And I love the cover. I love everything about Black Cake, and if for some reason you haven't read this yet, you must. It is a debut, and again, I feel like the debuts are just phenomenal this year. They're killing it. I have not read as many YA fantasies this year because last year was just so bad that I have no desire to read, especially debut YA fantasies. Like, give me an old tried and true before I go hit up any new stuff. I need like a few hundred people to read it first and some oldies like me to read them so I can feel like if I have invested time. But adult lit fic, adult general fiction, adult contemporary, all of that, the debuts are banging, and this was just so good. I don't want to say a lot about this book because I don't want to ruin anything, but essentially the mom just very slowly reveals her true story of herself, and you get all these other moments from the kids and growing up and other memories that get weaved into the narrative. But the whole point is to explain to these children exactly who their mother was and the amount of secrets this mom has and the life that she had. There's a lot of sad things in here. Just freaking read it. This is gonna be quick because I don't know how much I can say because it's a sequel to in a fantasy series. This is book 2 in the Blinding Knife. This is book 2 in the Lightbringer series, The Blinding Knife. And I still loving this series. Need to listen to book 3 or read book 3. Which is right behind me over there, The Broken Eye. I've heard that at this point, I'm a little scared because I've heard that at this point the series takes a turn and is a lot less enjoyable, and I really hope that's not the case because I've been enjoying this unique magic system, the complexity of it, all the different things that have been happening. I'm still a little concerned about a couple major plot points from book 2 have me concerned about how the series can actually sustain itself for another 3 books, but we'll see. But essentially, the general plot is that you have this guy, Gavin, who is sort of like let's just call him like the high magic priest of the land, and he controls all of the light magic. Everybody, if you have magic, you only can control certain kinds of light, and different light does different things. It's very complex. I don't have time to explain it all to you, but essentially he is the only one who can really do it all, and so therefore he's very important. He's almost like a grand priest kind of man, and like because he does these like absolution things where the magic cracks and people kind of go crazy and they have to be like removed from society. He does all kinds of religious sort of things, but he's kind of dying. Like, things are not going so great right now, and there's all kinds of duplicity and things with how he came to be in power as the Prism, and he has this illegitimate son. That illegitimate son is basically like a chosen one, and it's fascinating. It's fascinating watching this old magician essentially losing his power while this young magician is bumbling around and finding his power. The story is great. It's incredibly imaginative. It's just a good freaking time, and I really hope that they didn't jump the shark in book 2 and now it's just gonna suck. That would piss me off. I also have by Brent Weeks the bind up of Night Angel over here, and Monet from Life is Monet, or Life as Monet, or Monet put her beautiful face up. Tried to read this and she hated it, and normally that would discourage me, but Monet and I have like exact opposite tastes in fantasy, so I have this feeling I might love this too. So hopefully he doesn't totally screw up the rest of the Lightbringer series and make me not read this. But then again, Monet was like, I don't know how anybody could read this. The writing was so terrible, so tea. stay tuned. Does anybody else have somebody that's like their reading opposite? So when they, sorry, stop kicking the camera. So when they hate something, you kind of know you're going to like it. It's really helpful. It's just as helpful, arguably so, as having somebody who loves all the same things as you. This is kind of fun to like debate with people. But anyway, I digress. So TikTok. I don't have this book, and I talked about it a lot in my vlogs, so I don't know if you guys really want me to talk about it anymore if you are a regular watcher of the channel. I did read the complete stories of Clarice Lispector, who is a classic Brazilian author. These are all of her short fiction works, and there's like, I don't know, 80 stories in here. It was phenomenal. I mean, obviously every story did not knock it out of the park, but it was really stinking good, and I really need to get myself a hard copy of it. If you like short story collections, if you like translated lit, if you want to read more translated fiction, I would definitely dabble your toe in Clarice Lispector. She's very interesting considering the fact that the stories, especially this like omnibus, essentially is what it is. It covers her writing from like the very early stages to the very end when she was incredibly discouraged with publishing and writing and all of that. So you get to see this arc of an artist and their thoughts and their work, and it's so good. There's so many wonderful discussions of all the phases of being a woman. There's just so much in it, and it's so stinking good. Some of it's a little weird and modernistic and just strange, and other parts are a lot more straightforward and more like a regular old story that you would be reading without any strange weird twists. I don't know what I'm really saying. I don't know how to describe it because there's so many stories in here. It's so hard. But essentially, I absolutely love this. I had such a good time reading it, and I have every Barnes & Noble I've gone into, because that's all I really have around here, to look for one. I cannot get a copy, and I think I'm going to have to just get it off of Amazon because I cannot find a collection, like the collection of all of her short stories in a store, like when I go into a brick and mortar store. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to do that. Maybe I can get one of my indie bookstores to order it for me. We'll have to look into that. And then last and definitely not least is No Longer Human, which is definitely going to show up real funny on these bright lights. And this is by Asamu Desai. I don't know. I don't know if I said that right. So this I picked up because I saw it around for a while. It just kind of kept coming in on my feed and in my like sphere. I was like, yeah, whatever, what is that? Then Books with Brittany was reading it, and she really liked it. So, and then I was in the bookstore and I saw it, and I was like, oh, fine, I'll get the dang book. And then I realized that I have the manga version of this. I knew I had a Junji Ito that was a manga version of a classic Japanese book, but I didn't know that it was this book. And then I got them home and I kind of looked at them and I was like, oh, dang. They're the same. So I still have to read that manga, and I kind of am hoping to get to it sort of soon. I'm not really sure when I'm going to get to it. But this is the story of this young man, Oba Yozo, and it is so bleak. He just feels so disconnected with humanity and with the world, and he ends up attempting to end his life with this other lady. The lady ends up passing, and he does not. And that sets off a whole series of events in his life. And he just basically is trapped in his own mental illness. And he just never really gets any help. He just is so very disconnected from the rest of humanity. He feels disconnected from the rest of humanity. He's incredibly misogynistic, which I do find a lot in Japanese literature written by men, but also I think it's very important in the story because he is so detached from the rest of the world that I don't think I think that he just is so different from everybody else, and maybe even better than everybody else in some ways, but there's just so many passages in here that were just moving and wonderful. and like what it talks about, what it says about like mental health. And when this was written, this is like post World War II or during World War II. This is many years before we had like any sort of social acceptance of mental illness. And basically, like, he's criminalized for, he's considered a criminal for attempting to end his own life, and is considered a murderer almost for having this lady who was also in great mental distress pass during his attempt. So yeah, it's a very interesting look at mental health, and some of these lines just really hit home for me when I have had terrible hits of despair, of depression, as opposed to like my regular everyday depression. So yeah, it says, I suppose one can't expect people one helps to understand how difficult it is to help another person. It's the people around him are just so resistant to helping him. There are a few people that do continue to help him, but like brother and this other man, but it's just, there's almost this like resentment as well, that because there's a lack of understanding of what mental illness is like. So, you know, you're not just, it's not like I broke my leg, you helped me fix my broken leg, and I'm like, oh my god, so thank you so much. That's not how that works. Like, sometimes you don't even see the things people are doing to help you when you have mental illness, because you can't see it, because you're so trapped in your own mind and thoughts and feelings, you know? This one just hit home. This has nothing to do with mental illness, but this just, I think it explains me to a T. I had gone through elementary and high schools and was now in college without ever having been able to understand what was meant by school spirit. I never even tried to learn the school songs. We have an alma mater at my high school, and we used to sing it all the time. Do I know it? Nope. Did I know it when I was there? Nope. But you follow him from like a young man through to old life, and it's such a wonderful book. If you don't mind reading incredibly bleak stories, I would recommend this. The audiobook is also on Scribd. It's super short, obviously, and yeah, good time. I actually really enjoy this. I do have two honorable mentions. I'm going to mention Gerta by Katerina Takova. This is something that I'm currently reviewing for a book prize, so I can't really like talk a lot about it, but I've talked about it a little bit in some of my vlogs while I was listening to it, and it's definitely a really interesting book for those of you who like World War II historical fiction, but are kind of bored with what you read all the time. I would highly encourage you to pick this up and try it to sort of spice up, you know, your reading in that genre. If that's like your go-to genre and you're getting a little bored of it, try it out. I think you'll really love it. And then the other one I have is My Body by Emily Raj. This lady, the lady who's always naked on Instagram. This was surprisingly like good. So, and I think she addresses this a lot too. This idea that like being an incredibly beautiful and embracing your sexuality, sexy, like not always being clothed, like that kind of woman, whatever that means. People are surprised to find out that you're actually intelligent. And the problem with that statement is that it's absolutely true. And I did it myself. Unconsciously, I did it as well, because I should not be shocked that an incredibly beautiful young person is so like introspective and articulate. But
society just indoctrinates us into these ideas of what people are like based on outward appearance.
Anyway, it's an interesting collection of essays, mostly focused on what it's been like for her to be a model, and navigating the modeling industry, which is a disgusting industry, and very enlightening over here, especially when she talks about the blurred lines video. I just love how men can come to work and just be absolutely shit-faced and do whatever they want, and it's perfectly fine, but like, God forbid you like, I don't know, need to go to the bathroom or something at the wrong time, and then suddenly you're just being, you need too much as a woman. So I'm gonna get back to my popcorn because I really want my popcorn. And I'm going to get myself ready to go see Emily St. John Mandel and have myself a good time. If you enjoy watching videos about books and following people's bookish lives. Please consider subscribing. Please like, leave a comment, all that jazz. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in my next video, whatever it may be, because it's my channel and I can do whatever I want. Bye.
So just sit with me, talking to the night until the morning, building chemistry. I don't think I ever wanna go come closer next to me. Trying to find another way to say this, but I think